Yeah.
Welcome to Wonderful in DC. I'm Russ Branzell. I'm the CEO and president of CHIME, or the College Advocacy Day. And actually, it's critically important that we come together. And have been doing that for quite a while. We are a specialty, and just as importantly, we're representing the patients that we Utah. It was about patient engagement, and they asked me, my family members, and I was reminded by one of them what the word patient even means. The word patient, if you go back to the original root of the word, they're doing the jobs that they're doing right now. They're not doing the jobs, being treated the way they're trying to be well. It's our job to fight for that. And as you will hear along the way, there'll be a few calls to action. There'll be some reminders of what we're really focused on and what we're trying to make an impact on. And in some cases, making a great impact even as we speak right now. So for those that don't know a lot about CHIME, it actually started in 1992. I think we have at least one, I'll embarrass him a little bit, and Ed Kopetsky here. I'm not sure, Jim Turnbull, where's Jim hiding?
I'm not as old as Ed.
That's what I thought. So at least Ed is actually one of our only, if not the only founding member in the room. Are there any other founding members in the room of CHIME besides Ed? I don't think Randy was. No, so Ed's been around since the very beginning, so he can actually at least fact check anything I say along the way. But we've been around since 1992. And CHIME was really formed at the time, really for one primary purpose. Is that at that time, it was really an emerging part of our industry. Technology was taking its place. We were really kind of emerging out of the financial world, the data center and data processing world, into how are we going to impact healthcare? I would love to tell you now, 27, almost 28 years later, we've perfected all of that. It's all working perfectly. Matter of fact, if I could tell you that, I don't think we would be here right now. And CHIME even has changed a lot over those 27 years that we've been around. And our foundation has been around this year, 25 years. It's their silver anniversary. But even our board, which we have several members of here in the audience, even the last couple of years realized the industry is changing. And the industry is changing significantly. So therefore, they even went through the process of changing our vision statement. Our vision statement, though very appropriate for many, many years and decades, was really about kind of the technology. And now it's about leadership and making the change that's really necessary. And they boiled it down to 4 very simple words: exceptional leaders transforming healthcare. And at the time, and even probably a decade or so ago, CHIME was really about the CIOs. And not that it's not now. But what we realized and really kind of changed and matured, it's not that we don't make sure that's one of our highest priorities. So we have lots of priorities, including our foundation partners as well. We need them, we need you, just as much to be exceptional leaders transforming healthcare. Our friends and partners in the press, we need you to be exceptional leaders transforming healthcare. Our friends in the government, we need you to be exceptional leaders transforming healthcare by being an exceptional leader. So we've really come together for that purpose, and I think this week, these few days we are together, I think is a perfect example of that. And we've got some great opportunities. As I said, CHIME has changed a lot in the last couple of years. We used to just be one little organization. Matter of fact, when Ed joined, I think there was about 100 members. I joined about 5 years later, and the only reason I know that is Ed actually signed my membership certificate in 1997, and I was member 200 and something. Well, now we sit here with 2,800 members, and we really do represent a broad stroke. It used to be those members, and actually still a majority are, representative of big, large acute facilities, the big hospitals, the big academic centers, even the smaller community hospitals. But now it really represents the entire spectrum of healthcare. We've got long-term care, we've got nursing homes, we've got payers, because now, more than ever, the industry needs all of us working together. And as you look, even now, some new associations we just started a few years ago, we call them AHIS, AHIT, and AHIA, or there are A groups, and they represent our executives in security, technology, and applications, CISOs, CTOs, and CAOs. We gave ourselves a really big goal of having about the same growth as CHIME. It took us about 6 months to hit those goals. We're now sitting on 1,800 members in those groups. CHIME didn't hit those numbers for about 25 years. So that tells you that the industry itself is growing and changing in great ways. I won't go over all of this, but the reality is it's just really a representation of how much the industry is depending on you, the technology leaders, the information leaders, even the knowledge leaders now as we move into that part of the world. As I said, we're now 2,800 members. And what's really interesting now, and I think this is one of the cool things I get to do in my job, is we travel the globe, not just the United States. 5 years ago, we were in 4 countries. We're now in over 50 countries. We have members in just about, well, actually, in every continent except for Antarctica, and we joke about that, but we're pretty sure we're never going to land that one. Unless someone out there opens up a little clinic there, and Ed can say he's the CIO of Antarctica or something in penguins. But the reality
Probably where
is,
I'll end up.
he said that's his retirement job. Janet, his wife next to me, said, I'm never going to Antarctica. It's too cold. But what we really realized is we've spent time with leaders from around the world. Most of the problems are the same. Generally, the issues we're trying to solve in healthcare, it does not matter the form of government, it doesn't the form of payment, it doesn't matter how they conduct healthcare, especially in our space, in the information technology space, the issues are generally the same. Which means for the first time ever, we've got to come together as an entire global front to try to solve best practice. And though I would assume, at least looking at the attendance list, a vast majority, if not all of us, are US based, meaning that's where we live, that's where we're from. What we've actually also found is best practice doesn't always reside here. Matter of fact, we are usually pointed out fairly quickly as audience presenters when we travel around the world as the worst examples of care and cost and some of the issues related to that, which is not always the funnest thing to do from the stage. But the reality is, we've got an opportunity to share in ways we've never shared before. The world is flat, as the book put it. And I think we've got a great opportunity now with all of our partnership, all of our membership, all of you to do it in a new way that we never have before. Now, as I mentioned, it was only 10 years ago that we actually got into the policy arena. I was actually on the board as we were getting into this. It was about 2007, in which we said, we need somebody in Washington to represent us because all we ever do is whine and complain about everything that gets shoved down our throat. I think that was the actual meeting. It's in our minutes from that meeting that we actually said it that way. We need somebody here. We hired our first person just over 10 years ago to represent us here. And what we realized is one person's nowhere near enough. Now we're up to a whole whopping 3, and what we realize is 3 people are nowhere near enough, and we need all of our community to do that. The priorities of what happened here are so great. What's happening and hitting us affect us so much that what we're really seeing is we need everyone's attention and eyes on stuff all the time. I think the big flip probably happened about 5 years ago when our policy steering committee made the decision that we were going to no longer be a reactive body. We were going to be a proactive body. That we needed to be here on a daily basis to be not only educators to our policymakers, educators to the agencies that have to enforce this, and be right on the front edge of making things happen. And often even helping author things. And I will tell you, successfully, with some great leadership, and I'll tell you who some of those people are in a second, we've been able to do some of that. We still have lots to do. We have lots of opportunities still. We're only with the scarce resources we have. But I'll put our 3 mighty people in the back against anybody else's team in Washington right now and what they're able to accomplish. Now, part of that is the fact that they also got an army of volunteers right behind them. And our policy steering committee of 100% volunteers, they do not get paid 1 penny to do this. And I always still wonder, I was on that group for a while, why would they give so much? And there's several in the audience. 2 of them I'm going to pick, wonderful ladies here in the front row, 2 of the best CIOs I've ever met, and Pam and Liz. Why they sit and read at 10 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, these god-awful regulations that come out, so our members can be ready at 8 o'clock the next morning, I'll never know. And they will sit and read these things all night long. Now I can tell when they've opened a bottle of wine when you start reading their comments along the way, but I will tell you, they along with so many people up here have given amazing amounts of time and effort to make sure we have what we need in the industry. I would ask you to please give a round of applause to all our PSC. Now, as I mentioned before, our foundation partners, and one has stepped up time and time again to help us here in Washington. Leidos, one of our longtime partners, their names have changed a couple times along the way. Actually, I even used their predecessor to their predecessor when I was on active duty military, back long ago when it was SAIC. Has been with us step by step along the way, especially the last 3 or 4 years, and really make sure we have the resources and ability to do what we need to do. This entire event has been sponsored by Leidos through the entire process, and so we have several representatives, I think at least one, I think we have several. If you wouldn't mind standing and not less embarrassingly, please thank Leidos for their sponsorship. I know there'll be some more representatives from Leidos, and you see them tonight at the reception and you're enjoying a cocktail on them. If not, Jim will pay for it if they want. So, but at the reception, please stop by and say thank you for their amazing support along the way. Now, as we've moved along in our policies and our priorities, with that great leadership I mentioned at the Policy Steering Committee, we can't take care of everything. We know we can't. It's just there's too many things we can really deal with on a daily basis for us not to be focused. And our Policy Steering Committee, and in particular, the leadership part of that, has said there are really 4 things we really need to focus on. That we need to focus on these 4 things. Now, did we just arbitrarily make that up with the leadership of the Policy Steering Committee and our great staff, our great team? And the answer is no. We go out to our entire membership and say, what's driving you crazy? What's not making you effective in your job? And even more importantly, we ask this question: what's inhibiting your ability to deliver great patient care? What's negatively affecting the patients that are out there you're serving on a daily basis? And what we really heard was 4 fundamental things that we saw for our focus in 2018, and now really as our focus going into 2019. And the first and foremost, though we all know it's solved, all you have to do is go to any expo floor and go to buy any booth. Interoperability is completely solved by PowerPoint. The reality is we've got people that have done amazing work in this space, and I give great credit to them. Our EMR partners have made huge bounds on this. More data is being exchanged than ever. Our HIEs are more effective than they've ever been, but we still know for a fact there's still room to go on this. Data is not available everywhere all the time. The right data is not available all the time, available where it needs to be. And we've made great grounds, but we've got a huge, huge amount of area to move on this. And I commend you for focusing on this, but the reality is we know we need to do a lot of work on it. And so our Policy Steering Committee really is trying to make sure this is an area we focus on. Now, tomorrow you're going to have the ONC, Dr. Rucker here. He'll tell you what their latest position is on this, what they're trying to do to facilitate and amplify our exchange. You'll have a great opportunity to do that. There was a little legislation in the 21st Century Cures Act that was put out and the work in that space. And so we know for a fact there's still activity going on and still things that need to be implemented because of things like the 21st Century Cures Act that haven't even been put into full fruition. We'll also have a congressional staff panel here who can also tell us the other side of that. So you obviously have the legislative side, you have the agency side, and we're not even going to get into the Supreme Court while we're here the next 2 days. There seems to be enough of that out there. We'll just focus on the agency side and the legislative side. For how about that? For at least is a goal. Maybe somebody will bring it up during the reception tonight. We can all run away from that person, whoever does it. The other thing that seems to be coming up quite prevalently is telehealth. There's a lot of things going good with this. There's some opportunities out there. There are even some health systems that have made bold statements that they believe 75 to 80% of their entire care in the future will be made via telehealth. We've got a long way to go in this space. As we've surveyed our members, there are many that believe absolutely just accessibility to care. Like 60% of our members said the #1 reason to do that is people can't get care they need, but might be able to get it via telehealth. But there's also things that are just as high of impeding that process, which is payment reform, clinical care reform, cross-state credentialing issues that still need to be resolved. So we're going to focus on that, and you're going to hear more about it as we spend some time together. Now, one of the biggest things we've been working on, and actually while we were here the last day, our opioid task force has been working on this. So we started our opioid task force just about a year ago with some amazing reasons to do this. And it was personal, and it still is personal, but it's also even more that it's a problematic issue in our country. And we know for a fact that there is probably no group as qualified, at least in our space, but more importantly, more empowered to make the change. I sat and got to listen to a little bit of them this morning, and the passion they're approaching and trying to solve this issue, at least to make the impact that can be made with the impact that you all have in your space, is unbelievable. And I was actually, during the middle of that meeting, I had to step out and I had a quick breakfast with one of the CEOs of one of our EMR partners who are out there. And his comment was this simple: whatever we need to do to help you make this happen, you just have to let us know. And by the way, I've talked to at least the CEOs of the 4 largest EMRs that are out there, and they've all made the exact same plea. or the exact same pledge. So we've got an opportunity to make an impact, and we're doing it today. Where's John? I know John's probably in here somewhere. Our friends from Geisinger. There they are. They're hiding over there. Even they were willing to completely share what's going on in their space and what they're doing, what an impact that would make on our country. So that's why we're trying to share the way we are. And then finally, and not by no means the least, is the work that we've got relative to cybersecurity. As I spend time with our members, no matter who they are, even our foundation members that don't work in the cyber, is cybersecurity. The cybersecurity issues that we have right now are prevalent. They're under attack every single day. And as we say, even if you're getting attacked 20,000 times, the bad guys only need to get in once. And so you've got to solve every one of these problems that are out there, and we need help across the board. Now, to do that, we have a very special person here to share some of their thoughts. There will be no tweets. There will be no social